Procurement and Contracting Committee meeting to order. Today is August 5th, 2015. Roll call, please.
Calling the roll, Mr. Germana.
Here.
Mr. Miller. Here. Ms. Conwell. Ms. Conwell is absent. Mr. Greenspan. Mr. Greenspan is absent at the moment. Ms. Simon. Here. There is a quorum.
Okay. Has everyone had a chance to review the minutes from July 22nd meeting?
I wasn't here at the meeting, so
Okay.
I can't vote on approving them.
So we'll wait for Greenspan. We'll wait to approve the minutes until Mr. Greenspan. He's in transit. First, any public comment related to the agenda?
No, Mr. Chair, no one has signed
Okay.
in.
215-148.
Resolution number 2015-0148, a resolution making an award on requisition number 34095 to Lane Inliner in the amount not to exceed $2,891,570 for the 2015 sewer rehabilitation program for the period 8/1/2015 through 7/31/2017.
Good morning.
Good morning, Stan Kozaleski, Public Works. How's everyone today?
Great.
Good. What we have before you is about every 2 years we go out with a sewer relining and televising contract. This is to supplement our staff, our sewer maintenance. We put this out basically when our existing contract's about 10% left in the existing contract. So it's usually about every 2 years. We put this out. We had 2 bidders on this contract, United Survey and Lane Inliner. Lane Inliner's under the estimate by 3.6%. But engineer's estimate was $3 million. And just to let everybody know how this contract works, it's a task order driven contract. So while we have this contract in place, let's just say we might have a big event in a community, we have a storm or something like that, where there's some blockages or we may need to go out there and our crews can't handle, it's to handle the peaks. We would triage the situation, understand what the problem is, then we would work with this company to go out and say, well, we need you to televise this, or we know that this area is bad, we have blockages here, our crews can't get to it, get us a price to come in, clean that sewer, and or repair it. So it's basically based on a request by our office. They give us a cost based on the unit prices that they provided us. They go out and do the work, and then we pay it. So the only way this contract gets used is if we ask them to perform any services. This is something we've been doing regularly probably for the past 10 years. And how this gets funded, it gets funded from the sewer fees that we collect from each community that we have. And then, so if we have a project in Parma, then this gets deducted out of their fees that we collect. If it's done in the city of Brooklyn, it gets deducted out of that. So it's not across the board, it's specific to the community that there's a problem. We work with each community service department as these issues come up and say, hey, here's a situation. We let them know if we can't do it. So that's in general how the program is set up and how we operate it, and I'll be more than happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you. My first question is, on these type of contracts, is there a amount charged for overhead to the cities?
On the county's end?
No.
No. Basically what we do as part of our services, if we would go out there, let's just say we get a request, I'll use Parma. It's one of our bigger communities. They'll come in as part of our normal operations, usually one of our sewer maintenance supervisors, Brian Hitch, maybe Gary Green, or one of our line superintendents. They'll get a call from the service department, whatever, saying, hey, we've got a situation. That normal operation is still covered and that would be billed to that community. Now, whether our crews do the work, because we would have to assess that situation and do it with our crews, or we get a cost from these. So those initial costs will be the same no matter what we do. It just depends whether our crews do the work or whether we have the contractor do the work. So any overhead would be covered. Any cost of the county would be upfront anyways and be charged to the community.
Okay. Any questions from members of the committee?
Yes. It appears that the successful bidder was unable to meet the SB requirement, but the second bidder was. Could you explain that situation?
Yes.
Lenora Lockett, Office of Procurement and Diversity. When the county sets an SBE goal for a contract, there are three ways that the SBE goal can be fulfilled. The preferred way first is for the prime to meet the SBE goal by subcontracting the indicated percentage, allowing for them, if they are SBE themselves, that 20% credit. The second is for them to apply for a full waiver, or third, a partial waiver. And in both of those last two cases, they have to provide documentation of what effort they made to meet the goal. In this case, while it was somewhat borderline, the vendor did provide documentation of their good faith effort. They did meet the deadline. We have a 1 week before the bid is due deadline. They submitted written electronic notices to 4 SBE vendors asking them for quotes on the item. They also did post that need for SBE vendors on 2 sites, the SBA site and the Bid Ocean site. So based on that, at that point in time, we determined that they did provide an effort to meet the goal while they did not meet it in the preferred method.
Okay.
Okay, let the record reflect that the Councilman Greenspan is with us. This is for services for our sanitary engineer, and they go out to bid and then use the rates from these bids to charge the cities that they participate in. And so we're going with the low bidder. And Mr. Greenspan, any questions?
I do. Mr. Chair?
Yes, Ms. Simon.
So I just have a question on the budget, this amount of the contract. Is this consistent with past expenses we've had with these triage situations? Or is this higher, lower?
We put out, it varies between $2 to $3 million depending, and we're seeing a little bit more of a request now. So I think in the past, they might have been about 2 to 2.5, so we put out $3 million. We budget these into our community balances, and we're very careful that we don't want to overspend in a community, so we always try to balance that. So it is a little bit more than we might have done in the past, but it's just because the needs are getting a little bit more.
Do the communities themselves have a say whether, I guess it doesn't matter to them as long as it's within their budget, right? It's
Correct.
not costing them more per
Correct.
se, right?
Correct. And what we try to do is at the end of every year, we put out an annual report that defines, provides our services as a little overview. And then we break down all the streets we've cleaned, we've televised, any repairs that we've made. We give them a summary of how much they've earned, how much we've collected, what we've spent and where. And so there's a detailed breakdown. And then if we would have used this contract or one of our other ones, they would, it would be included in that summary. But our field supervisors are always in contact with the service directors, because when we're out there, they're getting the calls from the residents, or we need to make sure that they know what's going on. And a lot of times if our crews can't get there, they want to get out there and redo it. So that's why we have this for those situations.
So do we get paid as well the same amount out of the fund if it's our crews, or there's a higher rate if we have to contract out?
It's based on the work that's done. So we have an hourly rate chart that, like our crews, if we go out, for cleaning sewers, we'd have a rate of, it's so many dollars. I don't think I have that in front of me, but I can get you that. A lot depends on how bad the sewers are. If we get into a newer community that they might not have cleaned them before, there's a lot of debris in there. It might take longer, so we always bill it on an hourly rate. The next time we go in there, though, the sewers are cleaned out. Once you get that regular cleaning cycle, you get through that system a little bit cleaner. So we make sure that when a contractor puts these prices together or these task orders, that we're monitoring those, because we don't want to gouge the community, because then they come to us and say, why did you use them? You guys might be able to do it cheaper or whatever. So we're very cognizant of that. And we also want to make sure that it's done right. A lot of times if you have debris sometimes in a manhole or something, sometimes communities, a service provider will come in and just clean out the manhole. A lot of times there's debris up in the inlet and the outlet sections. So sometimes when you go out there, if you just go in there and clean out the manhole, it's going to fill up again if you don't clean out the ends. So we make sure that it's cleaned right, so we don't have to come back out there and clean it twice. So there's different things like that we make sure are handled, so we don't have to go back there and do it twice.
Somebody from your crew will go and just be on the job, or at the end of
Yeah.
just to monitor?
Yes,
to
we make
it's
sure that
done?
it's done right when it's out there, whether it's an inspector that's out there. It just depends on the nature of the work that's being done. Someone's out there to check to make sure it's done, and when they're finished, that it's completed.
Do we give the city Do we let the city know in advance that this is gonna be a third party and it might be a higher rate, or we just do it?
We communicate with them and let them know what we're doing, so if they see a truck that's out there, because a lot of times if, even when our crews are out there trying to regularly clean, we wanna let the service department know, because they'll get calls from a resident, hey, who's out here? Sometimes they don't know the county's doing these services, or if the contractor's out there, so there's always that communication with the service department, and let them know what we're doing.
Guess what I'm saying is if it's a higher cost to have the contractor in, do we let the cities know in advance, or it just sort of works out at the end?
I think we work it out through the process. Sometimes if it's an emergency, we can't get to it, we either can, we get them out there right now to let the problem take care of, or we have to wait a little bit.
And they know that, right?
Correct.
That that's the
Yeah.
practice?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. I noticed that this contract is from August 1st, 2015 to July 31st, 2017. But we still have 10% funding from the old contract.
That's usually when we start the process, so I can get you the numbers of how much we have left. So we want to make sure that we have overlap, so if an event happens, that we have the, we're not left without some
The
service.
point I'm trying to get at is, who's the contractor now?
I think the existing contractor is, I can tell you that 1 second. I think it's actually Lane. It's the same firm, Lane. So we have a Terrace, which is for construction repairs, and Lane is for the lining.
And their contract in the last 2 years is lower than this.
Let's see if I can.
Well, here, let me just tell you what I'm thinking.
Okay,
I'm thinking if, if they're willing to work under the old contract at the lower rate, and then once that is out, then we can
Right.
approve this.
right. And remember, the dollar value might be higher. We probably added more unit costs and more quantity into this contract if the dollar amount is more. It's not that their prices aren't necessarily more. I'm sure there's like roughly a 5% rate, but basically, their existing contract is for 2 years, or when it expires. This one will be for the next 2 years. If this contract is for it's roughly $3 million, if the last one was for 2.5, doesn't mean that the unit prices are different. It means the amount of quantity that we bid out would have been less.
I get that.
Okay.
I'm just wondering if it's less expensive on the prior contract, maybe it's to our advantage to
Right.
drag this out a little.
Right. We definitely use the old contract till it's done, and then we rebid it again. So that's what we're doing now, just so we have that overlap. But we'll use the existing contract till it's completed.
So there's no need to go second reading suspension,
No, I think we could go, I agree.
because we're under contract, as long as it's probably lower.
Right, I can get you that information, I just don't have that information in front of me, but the unit prices, when we put the bids out, they're comparable to what we've done. We always look at the past estimates and see what the inflation rates are. So I know our staff puts those together, and I'm gonna assume that the rates are probably about maybe 3% higher than the last one, is what we did our unit estimate based on, just for inflation purposes only.
Okay, so, water department's okay with that? I mean, the contract is up. It's okay to, take this into September to approve?
When is the expiration of the current contract?
I don't know. I don't have that off the top of my head. I think we'll be fine because this is stuff that we can do. If someone would have told me that this needed to be done sooner, I would have made, no one mentioned to me that we have it. I'm assuming we're fine, that 2 weeks will not be a problem with this.
And this contract is just to supplement the county's crews, so.
Right. So if something comes up and if we have a little bit of a gap, we'll just redirect our crews. So I don't want to rush something if we don't have to, and if there is a little bit of a lap, our crews can handle that in that situation. We might just get out of some preventative maintenance and have to shift to cover if there is a lap. It's 2 weeks. I don't think that's that big of an issue.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Miller?
I would just make you aware that the committee's report is just a recommendation, and that the council president has the final say on the scheduling. So if you were to go back and get information that there is a time problem on this, you could contact the council president and ask that it be put on for second reading suspension, even if the committee doesn't specifically recommend that action.
Thank you.
Okay. So I just wanted to make sure that, summer storm hits,
Yeah.
we have, and this is not passed, that they're gonna be covered, so.
I will verify that and I'll let the council president know if we need to move it up, but I don't see that being a problem. Thank you.
Based on our information, I'll accept the motion for second reading.
Also move.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any final questions? All those in favor of moving this second reading suspension, or second reading, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Okay, the ayes have it, motion carries.
Mr. Chairman?
No?
I'll move approval of the minutes.
Okay, second, I'll second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nays? Okay. Minutes are approved. 149.
Resolution number 2015-0149, a resolution authorizing a revenue-generating utility agreement with City of Brooklyn for maintenance and repair of storm sewers, sanitary sewers, and water lines.
Good morning, Stan Kozaleski, Public Works. This is basically, we're presenting to you an updated agreement with the City of Brooklyn. We have the City of Brooklyn is an existing service community through the County Sanitary Engineer's Office. Our existing agreements from 1991. Over the last few years, as many of you are aware, stormwater and stormwater management has become a very important issue to a lot of the communities. When the Sanitary Engineer's Office collects funds, we collect them specifically for storm sewer, sanitary, or we can collect for water. They have to be used for those instances. We've seen an increase in requests where we need to go out and clean out catch basins necessarily for storm sewers because they're flooding streets. We cannot use sanitary funds for that if they have to be used for this specific purpose. So working with the City of Brooklyn, they've asked us to prepare a new agreement, and we're going to keep the existing rate the same, but we're going to break it differently. Right now, we collect $2.60 per linear foot from a house for sanitary service. They're asking that we break that now into $2 for sanitary, and then, let me make sure I say it right. I think it's 60 cents or 60 cents for sanitary, and $2 for storm sewers. We have a little bit of a surplus in the City of Brooklyn with funds we collect for sanitary, so they want to get caught up on some of the storm sewers. So the aggregate costs to the residents based on the assessments are the same. They're just asking us to collect some money for storm sewers so we can go out there and help them out. We roughly collect about $740,000 a year combined for the $2.60. And that goes into their account, and we use it as we regularly clean our sewers or request it. So basically, we're presenting to you a new agreement, a modified agreement that we will be collecting for storm and sanitary, and within the next week, we always publish it. We get our rates come before council so they can go onto the tax duplicates. The rates that we're talking about today will be reflected into that ordinance for the tax duplicate for next year. And at this time, we're not collecting anything for water service. But the agreement provides for us the opportunity down the line if they so desire.
Okay, how many cities are involved now?
Right now, we have 18 that we provide full sanitary service for. And that would be if the full community, we do it. We have 11 communities that we provide limited service on, and that might mean that there's only a small section of a community that we do it, whether there's either a county improvement or maybe an area drains. Full sanitary, full service, and storm, we have 4 communities, so that would be 20 full service. Out of that, 24 would have the storm. And then we have 3 communities that we do task orders. We Cleveland Heights, North Olmsted, and Shaker. We don't collect anything. We have an agreement with them. If they want some work, they send a request. We give them a cost, and then they pay us directly. So we have 16, 20, 31. Is that 34 communities? 18. 18 and 4 is 22. 33, 36 communities.
Wow.
Said that correctly. Out of 56.
Okay, that's great. Now, one of the things we talked about a year or two ago is because these things change all the time.
Right.
Based on need, we're talking about redoing the contract so that this could be done without councilmatic action.
Well, what we're trying to do is to provide service. Some of the old contracts were specifically written for just sanitary services. Now that, and back then, when a lot of these in 91, really nobody worried about storm sewer, I hate to say it, or their communities might have done storm sewer on their own through their own maintenance departments. What the agreement that we have been working with law, it provides us to provide for sanitary and storm sewer service. And then also we can collect water line if they would like to. And what this happens is if there's a capital project or if they have an agreement with the city of Cleveland Water or something, sometimes they won't come back and maybe make the complete repair. There's something additional they need to be done. We can collect those fees where the community can tap into those fees to finish that project. So the agreement we have lays all three out. And then annually when we go and present the rate structure to council, we can, based on a request from the community, we get a letter, we adjust the rates annually through a council action. So we don't have to do the agreement, we just bring it forward through council action.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Miller?
Are the services that we provide for storm sewers different from the services we provide for sanitary sewers, or are they essentially the same but just different sewers?
They're essentially the same but different sewers. For sanitary, we get regulated through, or the communities, like if they go to regional, they have what's called a community discharge permit. So they have to present a report annually to regional sewer or whatever that says we've regularly cleaned our sewers, we have a regular program, stuff like that. On the storm sewers, you don't have to do that. So we don't have a regular schedule. A lot of the storm sewers are on request. They get some blockage, debris gets washed down in the sewers, the storm sewers manholes. So it's the same service, it's just we don't regularly clean them. It's more on a call from the community.
Do you have an estimate as to what percentage of sewers in Cuyahoga County are storm and sanitary combined, and what percentage are
combined.
separate?
No, I don't know. I know a lot of the inner ring communities are combined sewers. Like we have, Lindale, Walton Hills, some of those older ones are combined sewers as they've gone in there and we've put in some new sewers. I know in Newburgh Heights, we did a project and we've actually separated some out. I don't even know if I could get you an answer on that. I don't know if it would have to probably contact each community. If you would like, I can look into it. I'm not sure how much of an answer I could get back to you on. I could probably get you the communities we service though.
I don't think you need to do that. I was just interested if you happen to know.
Yeah, it's basically, I'm gonna probably say anything before probably the 1960s probably is a combined sewer system. And then anything for the most part after that is they're separate systems.
In many cities, Mother Nature combines them because they're not designed that way.
Well,
So, again, as everybody probably knows by now, I'm a big fan of sanitary
thank you.
because of what it's done for Parma. It's fixed problems that we chased for decades. So, it works.
Yeah. Just one other benefit, if I can, to that point. One of the things too is if there's capital projects, one of the things that we can do is based on these rates we collect. If we have a capital project, you've seen we've brought some loans to you before you. We can actually go out and get water pollution control loans and various loans that are paid back on the expected revenues from the fees we collect. So that also helps the communities out because they don't have that additional debt on their community tax, on their debt.
The legislation says they need immediately have this become immediately effective. Is there?
I guess on this one, would like to have it on suspension for second reading because we will be bringing forward the sewer rates, and we would really like to have this, if at all possible, before that legislation comes up. So I think at the next council meeting, I think that will be coming in for first reading, or by the end of August, it should be coming up. So on this one, if we could pass it on second reading, we would appreciate it.
Okay, is there any objection, second reading? If not, I'll entertain a motion for second reading suspension to the full council.
I'll so move.
Second, all those in favor, any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed nay, motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, that concludes our legislation. Is there any miscellaneous business? Anyone have any questions?
Yes, I have some miscellaneous business.
Okay, Mr. Miller?
It's been a long time, and we haven't heard much about the legislation on implementing the results of the disparity study that was completed at the end of last year. I'm wondering if we have any update on who's doing what with that and how that's coming along.
I can give you an update. We had a conference call with Griffin and Strong, who is our consultant, and we are trying to wrap up the final report and the recommendations. They will submit a revised report to the county on August 24th for our review.
And do you have any sense as to how the revised report will be different from the original report?
I cannot speak to that at this point because, as you are aware, we had two consultants working on the disparity report. We are trying to incorporate all the comments that we received from the first consultant and the county to incorporate all these comments into the final report.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other further comments? I will be out of town next week for the meeting, so I hope I can get a motion excusing me. I'm on vacation.
We'll take care of it.
Okay, thank you. That concludes our business. This meeting stands adjourned.
Chuck, would you